Welcome back to Sway TV. I'm your host JJ here on Amazon Live, and I'm so excited!
We're gonna have some fun on the street.
And we're doing Workout Wednesdays here on Amazon Live.
And she is fresh off the set of Shark Tank.
It's such an honor to be here today, so thank you.
We are going to be talking all about parenting.
You have no idea how honored I am to have Mr. Tim Storey making his world premiere right here on Sway TV Live.
Functional medicine is all this stuff. It's integrating things that improve your life.
This is our tribe of women.
I completely agree with you, Kimmy. It starts with being happy with how you look.
What is the key to a successful business?
We made history here on Amazon Live. Would you ask her out again, Michael?
I am so excited for today's Battle Shop Live. And it's Brad Grunberg. Hi, Brad. Here we go.
Get curious. Get curious.
Daisha says, I can watch Sway TV for hours because they are the best. Rosalinda just said, this is better than Netflix.
Oh, Naveen says this is better than Netflix. Yes! There's a Tesla. You can actually buy a car on Amazon. That is so crazy. The perfect gift. Yes, we got our Drake's Cake break.
David is live streaming. We got it right up in the corner. I love this.
I am getting a complete body makeover right now.
Oh, that feels so good.
Oh my God, that is the coolest thing ever.
So awesome.
Shake, shake, shake.
Shake your zoo life.
This is fun. Drum roll, please. Dun, dun, dun. So many giveaways here at Sway TV.
And one person's gonna win a PS5. Which one will it be?
Here we go. I'm so excited. I can't even stand it.
And Sam's in the chat says, Sway TV rocks. Woo!
We're still going. Yeah, we don't sleep at Sway.
One of the best comments I've ever received, ever, hands down. EK's gonna love me even more. Look.
I cannot make this up.
We are awarding you with the PS5 as well.
4, 3,
2, 1.
All the time streaming live. We're sharing great products. We're doing great interviews and amazing giveaways.
Amazon, we love you, Amazon. So grateful for you guys and for Sway TV.
Thank you, Sway TV.
Amazon Live, woo!
I've had such a great time with all of you.
Shop attainment all the time.
It is a girl's dream come true for someone like me to be able to give you dating advice and shopping all in one platform.
We in the house, we having fun, we doing the thing, we swaying. Do, do, do. How did this show turn into like a full-on sing-along? This is fun! We love Sway TV! Let's sway! Let's sway!
Let's sway. Let's sway. Let's sway.
Let's sway.
Let's sway.
Let's sway.
Let's sway.
Let's sway.
Let's sway.
Let's sway.
Let's sway.
Let's sway!
Let's sway. Let's sway. Let's sway. Let's sway.
Let's go, let's sway, stay tuned! Woo!
Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of Mind, Body, Spirit. I'm Dr. Kate. I'm streaming live on Amazon and with Sway TV. We're really excited to be here today. I have a very special guest who is coming in from the UK. I think it's evening there, and he is the founder of a phenomenal company that I've had the pleasure of working with over the last few months. I've learned a lot about his company and a lot about him and his mission and what he's doing. And I'm really excited for this interview so that he can tell you himself what he's been working on. His name is Stefan Schmelik. Did I say it right, Stefan? And he's the owner and founder of a company called Sensate. So without further ado, hello, Stefan.
Dr. Kate, so nice to be here. Very exciting to be dialing in from the UK.
I'm so excited that we were able to make this work, even with the time change. And hopefully one day you'll come to Los Angeles and we'll be able to do a live interview.
Oh, totally. My co-founder, Anna Goodmanson's out there now.
Oh, I didn't realize you had a co-founder, but that's really cool. She should come.
Yeah, totally. Yes, we'd love to.
Okay, well, great. Well, let's just jump. I mean, Sensate, for those of you who follow me on Instagram, you know I've been posting a lot about this device, and it's had a really great response because one thing that we're largely deficient in is relaxation, right? I think we can all agree. So I'd like you to start by just telling us more about who you are, and then we'll talk more about the product. Does that sound good?
Yeah, great.
Okay.
So Stefan, obviously founder of Bioself, and who makes Sensate, but also founder of New Medicine Group in London, Harley Street, who are the UK's main integrated healthcare clinic. So background very much in medicine for the last 30 years. And what I'm really now focusing on is where I can have the biggest possible impact. So the device that we've developed over the last 3-4 years is how I think I can do that. Rather than seeing a relatively small number of patients in clinic, I'm really now interested in having a technology which has an effect in 10 minutes. And this is designed to do that. And the research shows that it absolutely does do that without any skill or really long training period that you would normally need for these kind of things on the part of the user. So you put it on and we can show you how you do that. You turn it on, you choose a track from the app and you hit go. And within 10 minutes, you get a very marked and distinct, measurable change in all the important biomarkers around relaxation, particularly vagal tone.
So for people who don't know, can you tell us what vagal tone is and why the vagus nerve? What is the vagus nerve?
So the vagus nerve is this wonderful, fascinating thing that, of course, we've had for about, it's been around for about 500 million years. And obviously in humans since we've been human, but it's really reached much more attention in the last 10 years or so. It was kind of regarded as an important part of the digestive system, the autonomic nervous system, but now much more investigation and research shows that it is what many people call the key to health.
The key to health.
And we very much say that if we're going to do one thing, and one thing only, the thing you should do is improve your vagus nerve tone, because basically that drives pretty much everything else in the body that you're interested in. It drives the kind of gut-brain connection, it drives your heart rate, it drives metabolism, it drives gut motility, it drives breathing, and it controls what people refer to as the flight or fight response, the emergency response. So the regulation of kind of stress hormones and how stressed or anxious we get, how well we sleep, and therefore resilience. So resilience to disease, for how long you live. I mean, the list goes on. And obviously I'm a great vagus nerve missionary, if you like. But lots of people in the health sector and within neurology are very excited about the potential for vagus for a whole bunch of interesting and very, very common conditions, including particularly anxiety.
So we've talked a lot nowadays about how important the gut is, right? And everyone's saying your immune system, it starts in your gut, neurotransmitter activity. We talk about the gut-brain connection, right? And your device basically has figured out what the control center, like ground zero control center is for the gut, which is the vagus nerve. So just to recap, it's the nerve that comes off of the brain and comes down to innervate the entire thorax, right?
Exactly. It's the longest nerve in the body. Some people know that vagus means means wandering in Greek, because it kind of goes everywhere and goes through all the organs. It originates in the brainstem. The early brain goes down through the neck and through all the organs, ending right really in the pelvis, indirectly through other nerve connections. And it is, it's the physical embodiment of what we call the gut-brain superhighway. When we're talking about that, we mean the vagus. It's the thing that connects all the autonomic functions, all the things that you don't want to have to think about, but which are really important to happen, right? So, breathing, heart rate, the gut, sweating, all these kind of functions are controlled by the autonomic nervous system, and particularly the vagus nerve.
So tell me, when we talk about the vagus nerve and rest and digest, right? We talk about in order to fall asleep or in order to fully digest a meal properly, to be in the right nervous system state. Could you touch on how the vagus nerve is involved in that process and how Sensate can help activate it prior?
Exactly. Yeah. So a lot of people have heard of the kind of flight fight response, yeah, which is the upregulation, the emergency response to fight or flight or get away from a danger or just to perform, high performance activity, high performance sport. The flip side of that is the rest and digest. So it's like an accelerator and a brake within the autonomic nervous system, what's called the parasympathetic and the sympathetic nervous system. And obviously we can't be in flight or fight the whole time. Because it's very exhausting, because the kind of chemicals that are used for that, adrenaline, norepinephrine, cortisol in regulation, are very inflammatory. Whereas the rest and digest is where we need to be, certainly to rest and certainly to digest. So those two critical functions, which are so common to have out of balance these days. So many people have digestive problems, from food intolerances to irritable bowel syndrome, etc. And so many people have difficulty falling asleep or staying asleep. Mm-hmm. And then in between those two things, you have the regulation of the relaxation response. Mm-hmm. So how stressed we feel, whether or not we feel anxious, levels of panic attack, etc. Mm-hmm. And these were already huge problems, but obviously with the events of the last year, this has just escalated to genuine epidemic proportions.
Absolutely. I think this is very timely for what happened in the last year. But even before that, I think about when I was in school, in grad school, and this is interesting. So we were definitely always in a state of fight or flight. We were really stressed out. And I think about, I personally experienced several ulcers, and I started learning a lot about why you get an ulcer, a stomach ulcer or a duodenal ulcer. And of course, like there's pathogen involvement, like there could be pathogen involvement, but in the case where there isn't, it's so interesting to me. So if I sit down to eat a meal, the vagus nerve is supposed to be carrying responses to tell my body to release sodium bicarbonate, which is it's sort of like a fire extinguisher, right? That puts out stomach acid. Once the stomach acid moves from the stomach into the duodenum, it kind of like hoses it off so that stomach acid doesn't actually hurt your own body. But you want the stomach acid in the stomach to be strong. That's another thing that the vagus nerve does. So people who can't turn on the vagus nerve before they eat a meal and they're still in sympathetic, they may not be making enough stomach acid to clean their food of pathogens that could harm them, to break down the food. And then they might not be putting out enough sodium bicarbonate to put the fire out of that stomach acid once it moves into the lower, into the second part, the duodenum, and therefore an ulcer could develop. So that's one way, and it doesn't have to be that dysfunctional, but in my case, I experienced that. So thinking about turning on that nerve, and I don't think until now, I mean, of course I had heard about vagal exercises, but they're a lot of work. It's like PT. No one really likes to do PT. It's always work, right? Especially when you don't have tone in that area. So thinking about doing tongue depressors or gargling before a meal is just not really doable. It wasn't doable. So I want people to understand, because we have two of these nerves coming down, right? And they're sort of like coursing through the neck and then coming down. And then this device sits, I'll put it on so people can see. Try not to, I'm going to make a mess here. Well, you can put it on.
Yeah, the lanyard's adjustable.
It's adjustable, yes. No, it's good. It's just, it's funny because I'm drinking coffee.
I've obviously got one on as well.
Oh, you're wearing yours too? Okay.
I'm wearing, I've got my interview track on.
Oh, so great. I love that. I should be playing.
I'm wearing it under my jumper.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. So when I use it at home, I like to lay down flat and not use the lanyard and just have it sit on my chest. Mm-hmm. But basically, for people who want to understand, because off camera, the producer was like, well, what does it do? It's just vibrating. And I was trying to explain, it's more than that, because it's syncing with the sound app, right? And there's different tracks. And when you're wearing headphones, the sounds are sort of, maybe you can explain it better, but they're kind of like collaborating with the vibrations, right? They're in sync.
Exactly, it's synchronized. So, I mean, we're sitting here wearing them, obviously chatting, which isn't kind of what you do. So
right.
It's designed to be used once a day for 10 minutes. You lie down, you put it on, you put your headphones on, and you select a track from the app and click go. And then what you experience is a very whole body experience. It's remarkable how immersive it is for what is actually just quite a small pebble that sits on the chest. And the reason it's doing that is due to the mechanics of the thing. It's using low frequency sound waves, so infrasound, and then it's using bone conduction on the chest to convert the thorax, the chest, into a resonating chamber.
Wow.
In exactly the same way as when you play guitar, right? An acoustic guitar or violin, the wooden body of the guitar is resonating. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to hear the guitar. So this does exactly the same thing. This is like the strings. That the thorax, the sternum is like the neck of the guitar, and then your chest is the body, the wooden body. So we're vibrating the column of air that goes from the throat right down into the lower diaphragm and into the gut when you breathe in. And this is exciting and stimulating all the tissues in between. So obviously the organs, but particularly the nerves and the vagus nerve.
Which are sort of right on either side. Wow.
Yeah. And human beings have done this. This is something we do naturally anyway. We hum
and chant.
And we chant, and we sing. And these are natural ways that we don't even think about to self-regulate our stress hormones, to make ourselves feel better. Yeah, and babies and animals respond to this, right?
Right. Certainly, you imagine like a mother kind of singing a lullaby to her baby to help the baby go to sleep, and when the baby's crying, and chanting is and you've worked before with breath work, right? You were telling me when we spoke that you were doing breath work things, and can you tell me more about what you were doing?
Dad taught me and my brother to meditate when we were young, so I've been meditating for many decades with a number of monks and John Kabat-Zinn as well. I trained with him, the inventor, if you like, of mindfulness as we know it today. So I've been using breathwork and meditation with patients for a long time. But what I found is that people's ability to practice was becoming less and less.
Okay. And
so more and more people were finding it hard either to find the time to relax and breathe and meditate, or when they tried to, they actually felt worse.
Wow. Can you elaborate on why? That's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it fascinated me as well, and I really wondered about it for a while. And I sort of, over about a 10-year period, I really researched and looked into this. And I think what we're seeing is that people are now so overloaded with, there's research about the idea of continual partial attention.
Okay.
We have so much information and data coming in from, much as we can't do without them, phones, computers, and now we're on Zoom the whole time. There's so much data coming in that are kind of the more primitive part of our nervous system that we talked about, that decides whether or not you're in some kind of, you should be responding with an emergency response. It feels overwhelmed and it can't cope.
Right.
So then if you sit down and you try and breathe and you try and relax and meditate, or listen to an app, there's obviously several very, very popular apps for helping you to meditate. You try and then have this moment of stillness. Of course, what you notice is how agitated you are.
Mm.
And I think what's happened, particularly over the last year, is that many of the things that people would have used to kind of self medicate, but I don't mean with medication, but just like going to the gym, going out to restaurants, socializing,
to find balance and relax.
Yeah, a lot of these things have been taken away, and what you're left with is yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and if there's a lot of chaotic energy flying around because you're overloaded, then trying to be quiet on your own is incredibly difficult.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of people intentionally block out inputs from their body, pain inputs, inflammation. And I could see how I see what you're saying, when you do tap into it, you might not like what you find. It might not be a very comfortable place.
I think that's right. It's what I call the dark side of mindfulness, that if there's a lot of activity going on, which is stressful inside your body and brain, when you connect with that, unless you're quite skilled, it can be overwhelming.
So this makes me, go back. This is a little different in how it's working, because it's giving you, there's multiple layers, like more than just tapping, like to checking in with your body, because there's a physical process happening. So can you explain how that is a little different, how this is a bridge between the two things you're describing, I think?
Yeah.
Right?
So this meditation and breathing work really well, but many people can't do them. And as I was saying before, I've got to the place in my career where all I'm now really interested in is impact on a large number of people. I want millions of people to have a really easy, dependable, consistent solution for feeling better. So Sensei is designed to, and we've demonstrated in research, produces very marked changes to how you feel within 10 minutes. which is great. In addition, the more you use it, the more you build up the neurons around the relaxation response. Yeah. So the idea that neurons that fire together, wire together, is a bit overused, and there are some caveats to that. But generally speaking, it's true. We are what we do, and this is how you build habits. So by using the device for 10 minutes once a day over a period of time, your neural networks around that relaxation response become stronger and stronger, and then being able to relax becomes quicker and more profound, and it becomes your default response.
It's so amazing. That alone to me is just, I love it because, and I think about pathways like roads, and I've described it this way talking about addiction, but you could apply this to anything that you have a habit around, right? When you don't go there very often, it's kind of like a dirt road or a trail that's grown over with weeds, and it's harder to kind of forge the path. And then you could have, on the other hand, like a freeway with multiple lanes that's just secreting tons of neurotransmitter hormones so yes, I want to have a freeway. I want my vagus nerve to be like a strong freeway, not a dirt road, right? And the more I go there and visit it, just like working a muscle group, right? Strengthening a muscle in the body. No,
it's exactly the same.
Yes.
It's exactly the same.
You're shaking.
We talk about muscle tone. We talk about nerve tone.
Right.
The important difference is that when you increase nerve tone, it never goes away. So whereas
Really?
10 minutes after having left the gym, the muscles start to become weaker, right? They start to atrophy. When you lay down a neuron, that's for life. That's permanent. So now that doesn't mean you can't have another competing neural network, neural pathway, freeway, which is still stronger if you've done more of it.
Okay.
But the work you do on the relaxation response, or indeed any other neural pathway, is kind of permanent.
That's amazing. And it makes me think about expansion being permanent in the brain, which is really cool. That's so cool because we all try to remember as much as we can. And sometimes when you can't remember things, it's frustrating. And I find that the more you revisit something, the more you can remember. But I love what you just said because I didn't know that was a fact, that neurons don't ever.
No, well, yeah, pretty much. I mean, there is the whole thing about neuroplasticity, right? The ability for the brain to change even after traumatic injury or trauma. You can relearn many functions. What isn't particularly changeable or plastic in the brain are these autonomic functions around breathing and heart rate and gut, which is kind of a good thing, because if they were easy to change, it would be haywire, right? So those things are really quite hard to change and take a lot of dedicated practice. So you get people who have been meditating for 30 years who can stop their heart or change their gut, etc. But this isn't something that's viable for most of us. So having something that you can access instantly that has a measurable effect in 10 minutes without any skill or effort on your part, for me, that's my biggest contribution to world health, really, and the stress crisis, because this is something that anyone can use.
Absolutely. And so to recap what you said, and correct me if I'm wrong, this is how I'm interpreting it. You almost have a spectrum of people of vagal activity where on one end of the spectrum, you have maybe people who have very weak vagal tone. Maybe they've been affected by toxins or heavy metals that have affected the nervous system. I think about mercury all the time with nerves. We talked about this, and I won't go on a crazy mercury tangent right now, but we talked about it when we spoke. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you have like a Navy SEAL who can stop their breathing for, longer than most people, and right, or monks or people, right? Can you speak about that spectrum?
Well, that's right. Because the vagus nerve, and this is why it's so important, controls both the upregulation and the downregulation. So the performance and also the ability to relax and rest. So another related thing, heart rate variability, which more people perhaps know of than know about vagal tone, is basically controlled by the vagus nerve. So you can measure heart rate variability is a pretty good measurement of your vagal tone. Wow. Yeah. And HRV, heart rate variability, is fairly well known now in athletic circles and training. A lot of pro athletes will be measuring heart rate variability. We're now speaking to more and more athletes about training vagal tone, specifically because that's the next metric on. That's the ultimate metric to go for. So if you're a pro athlete, that's what you should be thinking about. But the vagus nerve's ability to upregulate and downregulate that's why it's being described as the key to health. Yeah, because it doesn't just lower blood pressure, it regulates. If you need higher blood pressure, it'll take it up. If you need lower blood pressure, it'll take it down.
It's really interesting that you think about the cardiovascular system, not just you, but lots of people, and health. And I do think so much about gut. I think about gut pathogens and gut dysbiosis and all of those things and how they cause brain fog. And I think about making sure we can turn on digestion. And it's funny. I mean, I don't know how it's possible for us to really say what is the true health, but the fact that this can do both of those things is pretty cool, right?
Yeah. It's cool because it can, as you say, the vital importance of the gut and the microbiome, right?
The microbiome, yes.
The vital importance of the breathing and the heart,
yes.
And the vital importance of the brain.
Yes.
And this is literally, not metaphorically, the vagus nerve is literally the thing that connects the three of those.
Right. Wow. Wow. So can you tell me more about in the infancy of building this company? Can you talk a little bit about your business journey? I think that, and since we're on Amazon and you just launched your Amazon store, so people can, if you're just joining us, we have some new people in the chat. Hi, Stacy. Thank you for following. I know Stacy, she's actually a patient of my colleagues, and I know that she's very interested in learning more about how to improve gut health. So great. And if you're just joining us, we are talking with Stefan Schmelik. Did I say it right? Schmelik?
Yeah, perfect.
The owner and co-founder and founder of Sensate out of the UK, which just launched their Amazon store. So we're doing a review, and I'm looking on your Amazon page, and I see we have there's some information, there's a video, so people can peruse that later and check that out.
Yeah, it's all there.
And I'd like to get into a little bit of the sort of the business of what of Sensate and how you kind of design the product, and maybe if it went all smoothly, or you already look like you have a story. So I'll let you jump right in.
Well, listen, we're a startup, right? We're still a startup. We're still a very small company. We're loving the opportunity to be on Amazon. America is now our main market. Actually, we're a UK startup. But we're a global team. So my CEO, Anna Goodmanson, is in America now. Most of our VC investors are American. So we see the future of the company very much in North America. But we'll always have, we have a UK team as well. And we have people in Portugal, we have people in Spain, we have people on the east and west coast of the States. And we have, the original concept came from my clinical work. So I was using sound-based healing for trauma, for anxiety, for PTSD, for insomnia for years. And my team in London, in Harley Street, were developing some intravenous protocols for a very, very upmarket drug detox clinic in Switzerland. And the doctor, my guy that was over there, said, they've got this amazing chair thing. You should come over and have a look. So I popped over, and they had this great kind of big, zero gravity chair with sound built into it. And that was the first time I'd seen a convincing argument for sound that's powerful enough to have a physiological action. But then I had a kind of eureka moment while trying that tech, where I realized you could miniaturize the technology, put it on the chest, and use bone conduction to get rid of 99% of the hardware, and therefore you could make it accessible to anyone. And that's the kind of eureka moment. That was when, and then we patented that. We now have a patent for our design and for the biofeedback loop that controls the app and the design as well.
Wait, you have a patent for a biofeedback loop?
Then there was a 3-year research and development process, testing it out, obviously using it on clinic, using it with patients in the wild. And then about 2 years ago, roughly, we started making it available to early users. And we did an Indiegogo campaign last year. And this year really is the first year that it's been available to the general public.
So how do you patent a biofeedback loop? That's what I want to understand. What does that mean?
Yeah, well, you're right. It's actually very hard to patent software. So our patent is quite broad. Actually, it's amazing, in fact. But it does talk about the uniqueness of the product. The patent is for infrasound bone conduction using specific hertz and frequencies on the chest to stimulate the vagus nerve in combination with and also you can add on a biofeedback loop through the app. So that's the kind of the big picture for the patent, which is nice because the effect, the bone conduction effect is a really, really big part of what we do, and that's how we've been able to get rid of most of the hardware. Yeah, we tried, and obviously if we could have produced a similar outcome using just an app, we could have done that, right? Because that's a lot easier. Developing hardware is expensive. You have to ship it to people. But having said that, people like hardware as well.
Right.
Yeah, it's nice to hold, and you've got one. It's nice. It feels nice in the hand, doesn't it? And it's designed.
Great. It's like it has this nice, smooth, matte finish, and almost
exactly.
like it feels like I'm holding a pebble, like a meditation pebble.
Yeah, exactly.
Is that what you were going for?
Well, yeah, some people call it the humming stone is one term.
Yeah.
What a professor called it that the other day, which I rather liked actually, the humming stone. He does guided meditations inside Stonehenge. He's a druid as well. So.
Wow.
But so you can't, we really did try to see whether you could use it without the hardware, and it just doesn't work. You just, the kind of vibration you have built into phones, into watches, what's called haptic vibration, just doesn't have the infrasonic capability to produce the bone conduction and therefore this very immersive whole body effect. So that the hardware is essential. It as you say, the music we write everything ourselves, and it's composed as one piece of music. Yeah. So what you feel and what you hear in the headphones, it's all one piece of music. Yeah, very cunningly and cleverly composed, but also very, very cleverly, and this is where a lot of our IP is, in the way the frequencies are, and I can't actually talk about this too much, but the way the frequencies are changed,
right,
with the way they're delivered to you.
And that's part of what you've patented.
Yeah,
like proprietary sound frequency.
Yeah, exactly. And we're in the middle of a funding round, so we really can't talk about that.
Yeah.
The details of that. But that's why it is so effective in 10 minutes. Because of the physical effects through the body and the way in which the audio that's synchronized with that, the way that's designed and composed.
So I'd like to talk a little bit more about sound frequency and healing, because that's something that, and anyone who's on YouTube, you can go and play certain frequencies for certain things. I think about sound baths, which are really big in Los Angeles. We have a lot of really amazing sound healers. I interviewed one last year, and everyone who's been to a sound bath, that feeling of the different bowls that have different hertz, right? Different frequencies, and supposedly align with different chakras, right? And then, of course, if you listen to a recording of a sound bath, it's not in any way the same experience. So that speaks to what you were just saying about having the physicality versus the audio only.
Yeah, there's a massive difference between experiencing sound just as compressed airwaves in the ear, and experiencing whole body sound from the inside out. Yeah. So that's what you get at a sound bath. I live in England, where we have a lot of very old cathedrals. Okay. And a lot of sacred music is composed where the lower 2 octaves are below the hearing range.
Okay.
And actually, I got a church organist in one of the big cathedrals to play me the lowest octave on one of these huge organs, and you could hear nothing. But then after a few seconds, the whole building started to move.
Wow.
And we're talking about a 12th century huge stone building here. So these lower frequencies are very, very important for getting the cellular activity.
Wow.
And one thing I've been exploring recently, which I think is so interesting, is the speed of sound in water.
Okay.
So we are, it's a cliche, right? We're 70% water.
Right.
In fact, we're up to 90% water. So the brain is 90% water. Cells are up to 90% water. The speed of sound in water is 15 times faster than the speed of nerve conductivity.
What?
So
That's amazing.
So the fastest thing in your body is not your nerves, it's the speed of sound in your water.
That's blowing my mind right now. I have to think about that for a second. How is that possible?
That's why sound baths, which I adore, are so powerful. It's why oming is so powerful, and it's why, and this is replicating that effect. Because we can't all get to a sound bath, right? Much as I love them, we can't all go and study with a breathwork guru. So I wanted to have something which anyone could pick up and use at any time. Particularly, a lot of people use this before bed to get to sleep, because that not being able to sleep is such a big problem. And better than most people the impact on your health of not getting proper sleep.
Absolutely. And yeah, if you're not sleeping, there's probably many other things going on as well. And you don't repair, and if you don't get into deep REM, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you know, if you're not getting proper deep sleep at the right time of day, right time of night, you're going the wrong way down the longevity pathway.
Right, your comorbidities go way
cells
up.
can't repair.
Yeah. So I'm still trying to take in what you just said a minute ago. So, and it makes sense now that I think about it. So if I hear a sound or I feel a sound, you know, that happens so lightning fast before my brain can even send the signal to experience the feeling with my neurotransmitters.
So there's two types of sound, right? So there's sound, which is compressed airways, which you hear in the ear.
Okay.
And therefore, a lot of the hearing aid technology is now bone conduction based.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so people have loops fitted,
okay,
which are working on bone conduction rather than normal hearing aids.
Okay.
And then you have sound, which is transmitted through the bones and the fluids of your body. Yeah. So that's why we sound different to ourselves. When we hear our own voice, it sounds different. Yeah, it sounds strange because we hear it through a different pathway. And we know that we can make the whole chest vibrate using tones, but through singing, through omming, through breath work. And of course, our earliest experiences are through bone conduction in water. So, you know, in the womb, every sound the baby hears during its entire gestational period is through bone conduction and through water.
So when you were talking about these silent sounds that you heard in the cathedral, he's not talking. Are you there?
Yeah.
Sorry, I think we lapsed a little and I thought it looked like you were not talking, but you were still talking. Sorry.
I'm here.
Okay. So when you were hearing these lower, the non-audible tones in the cathedral, I was just wondering, is there a way to integrate those into your app technology, or have you been working with that, or do you already have sort of non-audible, or does it even work that way if it's just in a phone?
Well, the frequencies in the device are non-audible. You can't hear them.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, so they're below a hertz threshold, which is audible. So the audible part of the orchestration is in the headphones.
Okay. Okay. Right.
The non-audible part is through the humming stone, which I'm now going to call it.
Okay.
and that's then relaying these low frequencies, these infrasonic frequencies, through bone conduction into the thorax.
Okay. Right.
And then the air in the chest is vibrating, just like a guitar.
So I was wondering, could you elaborate a little bit on how you designed the audible part, the part that we hear in the app, and how, you know, I'm sure you had, because there's a lot of different tracks. When people join the app, they can see you choose a rainforest versus like other sounds.
Yeah, it's important there's enough content there, both in terms of style, but also length, 10, 20 and 30-minute tracks. And we're working on a whole library of content which will become available, as well as other aspects of content that aren't just audible. You choose what you like, but you can also choose it by theme. Obviously, there's ones that are especially for breathing. There's ones that are especially for sleep. There's morning ones. And then there's a whole mass of what's called psychoacoustic and other information in the audio component.
Okay.
We don't particularly use just raw frequencies.
Okay.
Yeah, as you say, there's a lot of them on YouTube, a lot of binaural beats and things of that nature on YouTube.
Right.
We don't tend to use those because they're not that nice, actually, if I'm honest with you.
Okay.
They're a bit raw. So we have a whole system, and it's taken us a long time to develop this, right? A whole system of creating a what we call engineered soundscapes.
Okay.
Which use a number of components, including a lot of analog components, because digital sound, most sound these days is digital. It's recorded digitally. In other words, it never involved a real instrument. It was all reproduced electronically.
Okay.
And there's quite a lot of research showing that digital only audio can be quite disturbing to the cellular system.
Oh, really? Is that so?
Yeah. So a lot of what we produce is analog. Yeah. So it's, in other words, it's real sounds. It's not digital sounds.
So you're saying wait, I have to interrupt you. When people go to a nightclub and are listening to electronica, they're actually hurting their mitochondria. Is that what you're saying?
Well, they're having fun as well, right? So they're probably Yeah, they're probably balancing it out. But exposure to digital only a sound isn't a great thing. No.
Wow.
So we're hardwired. We're programmed to respond positively to nature sounds like water and air and birds, etc. Some people don't like birds actually, and that's fine. And then there are obviously certain harmonics, very complex harmonics that you get in omming sound bowls. You get in singing bowls, right?
Yes.
And these are really complicated, resonating, multi-layer harmonics,
right?
Which we reproduce using overlaid systems within the audio tech and then the hardware tech.
Right. So I just want to, so people understand. Let's say they have a favorite chant. I'm watching on the delay. If they were to use their chant with Sensate, would that create the same experience, or it wouldn't be the same because it's not synced with the sound track?
Yeah. So what some people do, because a lot of them experienced meditators as well as people with no meditation experience are using it, which I was a little bit surprised by.
Why?
But actually, experienced meditators are using it. They say they use it with their meditation, and it just means they get into a meditation state sooner or quicker.
It enhances it. Okay.
Yeah, and it enhances the outcome. Certainly one thing I do, because I don't do much, if I'm honest, I don't do a lot of classical meditation these days because it's running a busy healthcare startup. it's pretty busy. So I use my own technology, but I will sometimes hum along with it.
Okay.
So you can definitely create a frequency following response and a kind of om along. So you can listen to the tones within the music, and you can just kind of follow. And because you're wearing headphones, it's a bit like the vagal nerve exercise where you cover your ears and you hum.
Okay.
And so you also get that kind of mechanical humming effect as well. So you can certainly hum along to the tracks while you're lying there, which is lovely actually. You don't need to, because a lot of people just fall asleep.
Right.
That's the most common outcome, is that people tend to fall asleep at night. But if you want to hum along, lovely. And there's some tracks which are good for humming, like the Sound of Silence track, for instance, is lovely to hum along to.
I'll have to check that one out.
Yeah.
I need to peruse all of them. I found one favorite, I think, and then I think it was the bird one. So I'm curious, we have a little bit of time left to just talk more about personally. I would like to know how you've observed your own vagal tone change since you've been using it, or, I know you have these practices. Like, what kind of changes have you personally observed in your body? Do you feel like you're becoming more of a Navy SEAL when it comes to breathing?
Well, sure. I mean, it's about resiliency, right?
Okay.
We talk about vagal tone being the ultimate metric, and this is true. But what does that mean? What that means is you're building personal resilience. And really, that's all there is. That's all that matters. So, one of the reasons that we founded New Medicine Group is to explore that question: why do some people get ill and stay ill, and why do some people recover from anything? Yeah, so why is there long COVID? Why is there long Lyme disease, chronic fatigue syndrome? And I think the answer is essentially resilience level. Yeah, so if somebody has sufficient resilience, their ability to recover from anything, traumatic experience, chemical exposure, whatever, is better. Obviously, there are some things which are just so overwhelming that nobody will recover from them. Not everything is recoverable from, right? But in terms of where you're seeing people recovering and not recovering, the common denominator seems to be personal resilience level. And as far as I can see, based on 30 years medical experience and many more years than that on kind of meditation experience, is that the way you build that is by having the ability to self-reflect in the moment through your breathing, and what we would normally call meditation type experiences. The problem is those are really hard to do, and they're very time consuming. And therefore, whereas I used to believe that it was meditation that would change the world, I actually now don't, because I don't believe enough people will be able to become sufficiently skilled at meditation for there to be a tipping point. I think technology is kind of a problem, of course, in many ways, but I think also technology is the only thing that's going to save the world.
That's very interesting. And I'm trying to think on my feet about what the difference between meditation and vagal toning is, because there's a lot of overlap. Because certainly in order to go in, you have to get into the vagus nerve before you can even go within to experience meditation, right? Look within.
Yeah, I mean, the Sensate is not a meditation device, and it's not a vagus nerve stimulation technology either, which is an electrical technology, right?
Correct,
And medical technology. So we're not a meditation technology. It's not a replacement for meditation. In a way, it's quite simple. You can't, meditation has a lot of higher potential when you've been practicing it for a long time, but you can't meditate if you can't breathe. Mm-hmm. And if you can't breathe, if you're anxious, you can't breathe.
Right.
So, ground zero, the first place you have to work on is the ability to breathe out and sit in silence. And not feel anxious. Without that, there's nowhere to go.
So for you personally, so let's say you're a person who has pretty good tone, vagal tone, you did all this other stuff. I don't know what your health journey has been like, but let's assume you have a functioning vagus nerve that works pretty good. And then you start using Sensate and you're working on vagal tone regularly. What does that resiliency look like in your life?
It's basically the ability to roll with the punches.
Okay, so like leadership.
Yeah? But nobody is going to get through life without something going terribly wrong at some point. Yeah, maybe lots of little things, maybe a few big things. Stuff happens, right?
Right.
So if you can't cope with those rocks and stones and the punches that life will throw at you, then life is going to be tough. Now, that isn't to say that things aren't going to hurt. Some things are just going to hurt, but you need to have the ability to recover. And that's what resiliency is.
So,
and the primary driver of resiliency is vagal tone.
So what does that feel like? You seem like you're pretty somatic, right? You're like doing this, you created this, and you're talking about these sounds. Like, what does it feel like in your body to have a resilient response, or like to have a calm response under pressure? What does that feel like?
I mean, I think resiliency reflects in quite a balanced state. So you have, it enables you to think more clearly.
Okay.
And it enables you to make better quality decisions.
Okay. Because you're more calm.
Well, because you're calmer, so you're not making adrenaline-based decisions. Mm-hmm. Yeah, adrenaline, stress-based decisions are short-term thinking. It's how do I survive in the next? Yeah, which is not a good way to make long-term decisions, right? And I think we've seen a lot of that in the last year or two. Is a lot of fear-based decision making.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and I think we've seen the consequences of that. So. If you can't be calm in the moment, if you don't have a good vagal tone, if you don't have the resiliency, your decision-making quality is not so good. So your thinking processes are affected. Then obviously the ability to avoid illness is dependent on your resilience. You can't avoid everything. Yeah, some things are going to affect everybody, but you can avoid a lot of the stuff that other people might get. You will have, of course, therefore, all things being equal, live longer, but more importantly, the quality of life of those years will be higher. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you in it with a good resiliency, you should have a very realistic expectation of needing to have fewer medical interventions, take fewer drugs, and experience, in most likelihood, be less likely to experience severe illness until much later in life.
That was a great answer. Thank you. Sorry to push you on that. Have you observed personally, when you're a person who is in a room full of people potentially in the leadership position, when you're able to access your vagus nerve to slow down your breathing and be calm? I mean, I get very nervous. I get nervous even doing this, and I'm alone in a room, but just because I know I have to be on. Can you describe potentially how that energy, like within yourself, may or may not have an effect on other people around you?
Yeah, listen, I've had to cultivate it. I'm by nature an anxious person.
Okay.
And I think it's not coincidental that I specialized in anxiety, and that I've developed a device which is for helping anxiety and for helping people deal with stress. this is something, this is my reality as well. So it's taken a lot of work. And then my dad was, an anxious, depressive. So I see this in my upbringing, but also, I guess my, genetic variants in some shape or form. So it's been a continual lifelong journey for me to deal with stress, to find out how to moderate it better. I can still be impacted by it, but I can also, be a co-founder in a company which is trying to go global, right? And is in the process of going global with all the stress that's produced. The last year has been difficult for everybody. Looking at the people around me, I do see that I've handled it better than a lot of people. Me and my family, we're here, we're doing well, we're thriving, we're healthy. We've not been ill at any point during any of this over the last 12 months. And I thank my ability to self-regulate, taught from my father, and developed through my own practice. But and one of the things I found really helpful is when I realized that actually anxiety is the human blueprint.
Okay, elaborate on that.
So we're hardwired to be anxious, right? So we shouldn't feel too bad about it. Basically the relaxed humans got eaten or didn't survive, so they didn't pass on their genes. So the people that made it were anxious, a bit paranoid, probably hoarded.
Right.
And so human beings are essentially anxious people, anxious creatures. So learning to live with that anxiety and indeed channel it into flow state, into creativity, into dynamism, rather than stress, that's a really important and useful skill.
I completely agree. And I think we're always trying to find the balance between presence, right? Being present, which it's so important to be present, but you also have to plan and you have to be ready for, challenges and perceive what might happen. And those are that's a flipping between two nervous systems, right? Just like, I love that you mentioned the brain and sympathetic tone, because anyone who's, you have a coffee before you take a test, that your brain works better, right? You get more blood flow, it's more dopamine, right?
Yep.
So it's,
it's ability to use that energy, isn't it?
Right.
So if we can see anxiety as excitement, which it kind of is really, right? If you think about it, what happens when you've got tingly fingers, you're sweating a bit, your heart's a bit fast, you're breathing rapidly, you feel a bit lightheaded, you're in love, right?
Yeah.
Or you're tingling a bit, you're breathing rapidly, you're a bit lightheaded, you're having a panic attack, right? In fact, the number of physical symptoms that we have are quite limited, and they're very similar.
Right.
The only thing that separates love and a panic attack is the context.
Yeah, and the way you internalize it, the way you context it.
Well, the meaning you give it, right? So we can call anxiety and stress, we can call it excitement. Yeah, like you're about to get on a roller coaster, which of course makes some people anxious. But if we can lean in to the excitement rather than run away from the anxiety, given that the message our brain is telling us is wrong, you're not in danger. It just feels like you are.
Right. And I wonder how much the vagus nerve plays a role in kind of injecting courage into a fear situation, right? Because sometimes when you're in a fear situation, you might not be able to turn it off, but I don't know when you start to feel courageous, if that's a function of the vagus nerve, right? I don't know. I have no idea, but.
Well, I think resilience, right? So the ability to be cool, grace under pressure. Yeah. I mean, that's a term I've heard used in reference to the vagus nerve, is the grace under pressure nerve.
Yeah.
The nerve of meaning, the nerve of love. It's getting called a lot of things these days. Yeah.
Interesting.
Grace under pressure, being able to roll with the punches. Of course, if you can, the more you feel confident in your ability to do that, the more of from that point of view, the more of a Navy SEAL you are. Hopefully you're not being dropped behind enemy lines to blow up a power station or something too often, but doing a presentation, having to take a call, whatever it might be, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. This is so interesting. I'm really grateful for everything you shared, and I hope anyone watching who maybe was thinking about Sensate, or even I've been using it, but you illuminated things I didn't know about sound currents and like the way what did you call it? The acoustic thing that happens in the rib cage?
Thoracic amplification through bone conduction.
Yes,
That's right.
I didn't know that. I'm going to talk about that in my next Sensei post, I think. So I'll just, I wanted to reach back here to show this. Okay, so we'll stop soon. I'm just going to show the camera so they can see. Cool. All right. Well, any final thoughts before we wrap? Do you have anything to add? Anything else?
Listen, all I'll say is it's such a fantastic privilege to have the opportunity to make this technology available. This is my mission, right? My mission is to enable millions of people, tens of millions of people, to be able to self-regulate and relax at will. And by doing that, they can make better quality decisions, and that's how they're going to change the world.
It's an absolute insane ripple effect when you start to try to quantify the amount of change you're making, because you're influencing people's abilities to handle their lives better. I don't even know how you can quantify that, but it's pretty huge, right? It's pretty huge.
I think so. I think it's the biggest contribution I can make.
Oh, that's amazing. I think we're doing a code, right? We're doing a discount code if anyone wants to buy Sensate today on Amazon or in the next. It's on the site on Amazon. Okay, great. So it looks like there is a coupon on there. So for anyone who, is thinking about trying it, there's a coupon, and is it $25 off, I think? $25 off. So that's great. Thank you guys for doing that for us. And we wish you a lot of luck with your Amazon launch, and we hope that we can definitely, this interview I think will definitely help people understand why they needed this, that they didn't know that they needed it probably, but it's better than
I think we all need it, don't we?
We do all need it. And I think in the past I was talking about this, which I also didn't know I needed, but it has helped my life a lot. It saves me time, but on a totally different note. But that's the beauty of Amazon. I mean, it's we can buy a Tesla now on Amazon, and we can buy Sensate. All right. Well, thank you.
Dr. K, thank you so much. Pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much. It was so great. And thank you to your team for making this possible, to everyone in the UK. Thank you guys. And I'm going to just outro. And for anyone who's watching, thanks for joining us. You can watch the replay of this on swaytvreplay.com. It'll redirect you to where you can rewatch this episode in case you missed the beginning. And we'll definitely, it should be up there for a few days, I think. So, all right. Thank you so much, Stefan.
Good night.
Thank you, everyone. This has been another episode of Mind, Body, Spirit. I'm Dr. Kate, and this is Sway TV Amazon Live. Thank you for joining us, and let's sway.
Make sure you guys follow Sway TV. Follow Sway right here. Ooh, it's this way, sorry. Corey says, thank you, Sway TV. Shakira says, thank you, Sway. Yes, guys, it is so much fun. We love Sway TV.
We're here all the time streaming live. We're sharing great products. We're doing great interviews and amazing giveaways.
Amazon, we love you, Amazon.
So grateful for you guys and for Sway TV.
I've had such a great time with all of you.
Shop attainment all the time.
It is a girl's dream come true for someone like me to be able to give you dating advice and shopping all in one platform.
Amazon Live! Woo! Let's sway!
Let's sway. Let's sway. Let's sway.
Let's sway. Let's sway.
Let's sway!
Let's sway.
Let's sway.
Let's sway.
Let's sway!
Let's sway.
Let's sway! Let's sway!
Let's sway. Let's sway. Let's sway. Let's sway.